Maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. But we are recording, and the previous session has ended. And nobody watched our other stream, I think. So
it's okay. It's just a moment.
Pretty sure
it's just a time of reflection, right?
Nobody's watching this one, which is even better. So don't watch this. If you've come across this video, don't watch it. We just wrapped up 4 hours of recording, the perfect timing for a to keep editing easy and everything.
Yeah.
Standard. And I think like if you're going past 4 hours, really, nobody has patience for that into like, the half a day.
Yeah.
That's a whole afternoon, a whole morning.
For sure.
Dang. But wow. That's my impression was lots of great on the point stuff. We didn't ultimately learn how to organize yet.
I think are we ever going to
Yes.
given the circumstances, given the constraints?
I'm
if you
driving towards that on two fronts. One being paper based, the other being software based. I believe in that.
I do take point for the software stuff. Main reason.
Now we were talking about architecture.
Software is adaptive as fuck.
Architecture. Remember how we all have hardware and an operating system or whatever. We also have a database. We also have a profile. We have relationships. We have a web of trust.
So you're talking about like your inner construct of website. If you will.
Web of trust.
Well, what you're talking about is a metaphor, right?
I tried creating plateaus in my mind, whatever I thought of these types.
What I like about your metaphor, though, is that each person is like a domain.
Right. We're doing plateaus once again.
We're a website to ourselves, if you will.
Each person can hold multiple kind of databases, really, sort of. But there's a default one. That's what I called the loop back, right?
Yeah, sure, yeah. If you want to make loop back data centric component, that actually works.
Hardware.
It's a linearity, right?
Database. Profile. So out of hardware, I was thinking like computer and card as kind of the separate branches of where you would develop this.
What about body?
Well, that's the kind of unspoken one, right?
Really?
Okay. In this, what I've talked about, like dashboard, it's the same idea. This is the cognitive tech, right? That's implied. That's got to be there. And this is the self-sufficiency and all this kind of thing, like the tall order. Right?
Yeah, right.
It's
only the thing.
Before this even makes any sense, of course. Yes. So thank you.
Sorry.
So there's many databases. Each database is a guild.
Yeah.
Right? For all the databases. And I would say like some of those guilds are really pointing to a profile, it seems like.
I'd like to say database. That is more... There's two ways to look at a database, right? Like one of them is a record of things. One of them is record of events.
Cool.
So
what's interesting about that?
What's interesting about a database in that context is that you have a database, I have a database. That's our stacks, if you will. and then there is like a database that is between us.
Okay.
And you hold a portion of it, I hold a portion
Now,
of it.
this is what I wanted to be represented by guilds themselves, basically.
I think
Like
that's why
the
I'm
fact that we're calling something a guild, that makes it a database in which multiple people are agreeing to copy. We're just agreeing to copy it. We share it, we copy it, right?
that's one way to look at it.
Interpretation is beyond that. But what holds the guild together is the fact that there's a shared
Copy.
reality mapping expression, right?
So
Copy, multiple
so
copies.
so in other words, if say I have a distinct database, you have a distinct database, our interaction is an amalgamation.
That's it's going to be.
And-
It's a constant negotiation boundary area. It doesn't stop anywhere. It's like a rumbling of just pushing and pulling. Right.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. That's, I think, the vision. So my idea with databases was that you have your inherent database, your APS, whatever, let's call it the local neurochemical net, which is represented by a loopback. Basically, I equate those. I just call that, this is that, this is a context into the system, boom, that's that. So this is kind of like a master context, the loopback, but the fact that you have a database. So you need a database. The first one given, granted, is loopback. Within this, you can build a profile, right? Like a database. A profile has to be a profile is data. It needs to be in a database.
It's representation
Right?
of the self.
It points right towards ideally loopback. You need a profile associated with the loopback database. So I think this is maybe like the yin and the yang connecting here.
The expressions. So on the one hand side, you have I exist. On the other hand, you have what is that existence entail in the grander scheme of things.
Of course, the content of that profile the profile is going to connect with many databases, I think. The profile is going to find representation along many databases. That's why I put database below profile, I think, because profile is a data. And yes, it's one that reflects you as a loopback sustaining, like, locality. You know, keeping it open for our AI friends. Loopback sustaining localities, yeah. That burrito, eh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had a couple of nibbles. Not gonna lie. It was delicious. But I had a good breakfast. I ate 4 eggs and bread. Got me through.
Ooh, so delicious.
I'm pretty impressed that we started, like, it's only 4 o'clock now. Like, we must have started without even thinking, like, we just pulled the trigger, right? It was like 11 o'clock or something.
I had my pants on, so
11:30. Before noon, I think. Yep. Good for you to put the pants on.
so. Strongest points of today's
discussion from your perspective?
Is the lack of capacity
Whose?
for the fundamental layer to reify.
I'm glad we brought up the fundamental layer again. I injected that a bit ago. I think you liked it. It's what we are providing.
Yeah.
That the mapping of that fundamental layer.
So the real discrepancy is in the fact that statements
Fundamental guilds, as we would say.
in an upper layer suffer from the inability to be reified from its lower layer.
There is, in other words, the problem of meaning,
Mm-hmm.
which you could say the problem of expression, which is at a certain layer of expression, you literally have no rational connection with the layers below that you're talking about. And yet you still have to express. You have no rational upwards. This is the Gödel incompleteness discussion all day long today.
Right.
You don't have that connection to rely on. It must be understood.
Trying to describe the taste of watermelon to another person.
It's not being told this expression as a truth. It's not intended, to be taken literally. Let's say along the stupidity spectrum, the point is to be taken on faith and tested.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Like intermittently? That's not the word. You just take something on faith, try it, right? And it takes a lot even to build up to that point where somebody would take anything at all on faith, right?
With faith being but defined by this soundbite,
it's very different from literalism, in which you're just not even questioning and not even wondering what the definition of something is that's been given. You take it as a machine, as gospel, as they say, gospel truth, without questioning, without that adaptive animistic apprehension of the object type, right? Fatal, catastrophic failure of language.
Well, I mean, if we're going to say fatal, we might as well qualify. What is so fatal?
Mm-hmm. Dysmorphic disconnection.
All right, well, I'll qualify it.
Of the strange loop.
The tangible workings of all of this amount to
Tangible.
war.
We like tangible. We like war.
It all amounts to war.
We understand war, anyways.
In the very simplest
That's what you mean to qualify it? Yes, correct.
In the very simplest terms, the activity of the civilized world.
That's a hard sell, hard to script.
It's hard from the perspective of, like, I don't want to believe it. But
right.
But from the analytical point of view, the activities of the system generally funnel those without capital.
It's kind of weird.
Into a funnel of self-destruction to duke it out for greater interests, which are intangible,
right,
to the people fighting those wars.
So, in other words, what we're saying is the very relationships that we have with people, to, let's say, you make my burger, I'll give you money. The fact that you look that person in the eyes and don't understand what's going on, other than the fact that you're paying money and you get food, is symptomatic and directly related to the fact that people murder each other on the battlefield en masse. That disconnection of you don't know who they are, that is the reason why the trigger is pulled en masse.
It's an exaggeration of the same phenomena for sure.
Just illustrating the artistic.
No, it is the same phenomena, just exaggerated. To its lethal consequence.
Mm-hmm. Right, just connecting the scale and variance of the model. That I think that's what we all should look for. That's what the holonic model speak kind of tells you and pushes, that we should look for scale and variance, patterns that just keep repeating over and over again, and then work with that as kind of like our axioms, if you will.
And the sad fact is that the scale and variance points to a very, very difficult truth. That is, we are murdering each other.
Not us.
Yet.
But the system
Yet.
we are, right? And the whole idea of kind of collapse and all this kind of stuff. The cycles of revolution.
It makes the murder of each other
negligible. We haven't escaped the cycles of revolution. To do that, we would need this type of model of emergence, which we're talking about today, which is interesting.
To toot our own horn.
Yep. Time's of the essence. The temple is ash.
Indeed. The message has not been different from that of the Buddha all across the years, and
hopefully, or you think so?
I know so.
You think even I didn't violate any tenets in
There's no
in
tenets to
description?
violate.
I didn't violate.
There's only growth. There's only perpetual growth.
Wow.
He spoke to a specific.
You have faith, don't you?
He spoke to a specific. What do you call it? Break.
Well, that it's so early.
He spoke to.
It is so early.
He spoke to a blocker.
I hate blockers. Somebody opposing his message?
No.
It's a bricklayer? Fuck bricklayers. I'm kidding, I love bricklayers, of course.
The issue back
Laying
then,
stuff is good.
The issue back then is the same as it is now. Representation.
Same as it ever was.
And the transformation of this thought process into dogma.
But it's always about the same thing. It's like the self-model. How many times have religion tried to just convey, dude, we're just making a model of ourself in our brain. You know, like how the brain models stuff? We're modeling ourself instead of the world out there. Do you get that? Is that okay? How many times has religion come up with this idea and it's still failed? Why is it complicated, people? What's so complicated? It's the special mirror. That's what we call in the funhouse. The funhouse reflects everything, all of it, but never itself. That's the special mirror.
The complication.
Comprehend?
The complication is that all of this immersion and presence is hijacked into a loop of psychosis and neurosis.
Trapped in the dream. Trapped in the dream and swayed by reward and punishment. Very tough.
The tiny sliver of all of it comes through identification. That's that tiny thread that
identification
that pours itself through, weaving together an ego over and over and
because
over.
The self is hijacked as ego. It's an identification loop.
Supplanting the ongoing narrative with its own alienated weave. It's
through affect, through conceit, through simple mechanisms of you will be rewarded,
all it is.
you will be punished.
All it is. It's solidifying the object of self within the narrative. As long as that object makes itself through.
And you're talking about becoming kind of permanent, right? Like
Yeah.
unquestioned permanent, never releasing. And this is kind of
This
trapping
is
up.
you.
This is trapping up a whole bunch of different experiences in the past of who I am into this kind of bundle of anxiety and regret for the past and all this kind of stuff, right? The model has to deal with that. This is like
It
trauma
does.
recuperation.
Because if it didn't deal with that, this would not be a conversation.
Now, I think we've only probably ever touched that, like the therapeutic implications of the model. And I feel like there are ritual kind of things that should be constructed or could be to help something through, like to actually become like a practice.
Alcohol is
Right.
not a part of that.
No. No, it's not. But
Just saying.
yeah, again, not the ideal specimens here, but yeah, it's definitely like it feels like a blind spot of the model. And again, we're not live. Oh, we are, but nobody's watching. And blind spots of the model, as in like this idea of trauma recuperation, let's call it, of nullification of trauma, of narrative. It's like heaven meeting earth. It always to me seems to be body movements which coincide with thought forms of traumatic thought forms above, to kind of like move out of being stuck somehow. Like I don't know how these therapies work. I've had the intuition to kind of pursue them for years, and I don't know much about any of that kind of stuff. Like somato emotional release.
What we do know is this.
Different words that describe yin and yang, basically, in saying dealing with.
What we do know is this. When it comes to the tall order, is that we cannot, none of us can half-ass any of it. Right? Like, the notion of being self-sustaining, the notion of being self-capable, the notion of being able to repel antagonism.
Well, it all requires such a focus.
Incredible
Like
focus.
just paying great attention and even lingering in thoughts of others, thinking about your group structure, lingering in that. Right?
It's a good word.
That's what it means to give attention and focus.
It's a good word. Good term.
Because that's the only way to like settle into probably like an empathetic type of narrative, to be able to give space for somebody else's story.
It's way beyond the capacity of us as speakers.
It's getting pretty dark out there too, eh?
Yeah,
I like how the video.
let's get on it.
We're taking a break though, for sure. But because we got another half hour of just chilling and meeting, so this is the bonus round, which we love to see, and we'll be right back. Okay. We're back. We're back then for our what you call, or halfway in, half an hour into, let's say,
Our freedom
freedom.
of expression.
Right. So our main work, our job is done. We've completed very well.
So here's our main criticism. We all suck.
That's tough. That is tough. It's tough but true. Sad but true. Sad but true. That was just in case.
Sucketh at what we do.
Just in case. Oh, you didn't redline it. Good job, man. I
And
did.
You did. You did.
Son of a bitch.
You
Get me a
did.
beer.
You did.
Son of a bitch, get me a beer.
There's some lights over here.
Need more light?
It's getting depressing. Whoa! Oh, that's making me sick.
Okay. I'll fix it. Ah, you like that one? Pearly.
It feels familiar.
It's nice.
Do I know this light from somewhere?
No.
My house, perhaps?
No, you don't. Well, yes.
Once upon a time, I've had this light with me.
How's that?
Mm-hmm.
Feel more romantic for you?
Oh, yeah.
Good. Cause and effect. Yeah. So yeah, like I'm thinking like this live stream, let's call it, even that deserves no fanfare. Doesn't matter one shit, because we've already basically created our stream, which I think we ended fantastically. It was like such a random giant arc of things that we needed, right? Once again, we've done it. We've basically done it. Here's your lighter back.
Well, I mean, popping that guild bubble back into on the ontological matrix, it's a fucking shit show that needs entertainment
Well,
like nothing
this
else.
this is the social perceptual manifold. This is the manifold of perception that we share as a society. That's what we're getting into, and that's obviously going to be fucky.
I like that we've tackled the main notion of presence, immersion, and its counterparts to
I like that.
psychosis and neurosis. In particular, because we've always left the question open for cool. You're not attached to the dream that's ongoing and all the moments that feed into the dream to begin with. What's left? Like, it's as if you're like completely outside of existence.
Just to model what keeps happening.
Right. So
Create a model
I
of what
really
keeps happening.
I really wanted to bring that back home so that there's no question about what it means to be not in a psychosis or a neurosis, i.e., present and,
Right.
and immersed.
Right. And oddly enough,
And it's very similar.
speaking about coherence, this is aligned and directly related, and it seems to be something that can be detected by omission, almost like what doesn't happen, which is a weird thing because you can't just tell somebody is a member of the guild. You have to statistically observe their behaviors until you find most of their behaviors are not doing something.
Right.
It's not about what they are, who they are, their title, anything. It's about what keeps constraints keep not getting violated, right? And that's a weird way of kind of detection, but it's like kind of the negative reverse detection, if you will. And that's just for like building trust in relationship.
And for an idea that doesn't
And it's
poise itself on exclusion to begin with.
it's not a thing like, oh, this person, they're not a member. You know, that's not something you tell people.
Or conceive
Right?
of.
You don't try to have some influence over who people think is a member or not. That directly breaks it, and this is where you would have typical, like, linear
In-group,
hierarchical, right? Tipikoru. So I was thinking for today, for the rest of our chill, just to not even throw the camera on. We're just gonna chill with our smokes in here and shit. How was your burrito? Was it?
We are.
Man, Friday I jammed. I jam every Friday, man. Almost every Friday. And it's always like some heavy hitting shit. And then you just fucking slam into it. Start fucking busting out. Music is great. You should learn guitar. Your only limitation is your nothing. Because I'll jam with you anytime. If you want to play a little ditty, I could do solo. I could teach you rhythm. You just do a couple chords and then I can fire off on it. Piece of cake. Then it's just about timing. Yeah, you got it, man. You remember. He's remembering. Shania levitates.
Dun, 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 dun.
He's levitating. Yep. I, for one, am very thankful for today's meeting. Even though it's just you and me, that's, you know, like... But I love our Portal Mountain lobby people, tribe, our campus people, and our academy people.
I
Right?
don't know how well I'd be able to formulate thoughts if it wasn't for, say, Vicky.
She's really like kind of like an opposite counterpart for you a little bit.
Yeah,
Hitting the perceptive
just
side
like-
of things.
hitting
She tells
such
the best
cultural
stories.
notes
Her stories that she tells,
we don't have.
her stories are insane. Like, it's always like you get it, and it's deep.
And they're not. They're just things that happen.
In the way it's as presented, yes, not like a fight or something.
It is so humbling, in a way. Humbling is one way, I would say. It affects it. It affects the dialogue.
This is the effect that every member should have on every other member.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
As much as I appreciate that.
It's hard to express the level of her influence, though. Because it's insane. Not insane as in bad, but insane as in, oh my god, it's like literally touching everything that we're doing. And it does.
Yeah, it's really neat to have like a shaman come along.
Right?
That's really neat. And stick around, of all things.
And stick around of all things, yeah.
Holy shit.
I am forever influenced by the depictions of the uncoerciveness of child rearing
Love that, yeah.
and moved. I don't know to what extent, but like this, you don't keep food away from children.
Good
The-
story,
Like,
yeah. Yeah.
I can't even
And in a way, we can see
express how
our
much
whole
that
our whole
influences me.
world turned upside down. In even
By
the time
those- by those
that we've been
stories.
alive,
By those stories alone.
right? To kind of understand the shift that has happened. Like, think about it, last 50 years, whatever, upside down. Like the ideas of, kids running free at night in the neighborhood playing tag or whatever. Like, and the fear has overcome these days a lot. That's kind of like one of the ideas.
Oh, the teenagers, the scary,
Right.
scary teenagers. Meanwhile, the only reason those teenagers are scary in any capacity is because they have nothing to fucking do
Nothing meaningful.
at all. What did even when we were growing up, what was the only thing that we found meaning in doing? Fucking off and smoking a joint somewhere.
Hmm. Expand your thinking.
We did this because we had
That's
no
wild.
other fucking choice.
It's wild. Psychology is wild. And even depression is wild. And being forced into certain things is wild. Into a cage.
Coercion?
Into a cage that you can't see, but you feel. And you feel it as depression, and it's like, but it's
Because I'm a
situations
programmer, what the
of it.
fuck do I have to say about life, right? And you were
Lots, apparently.
you're a woodworker. What the fuck do you have to say about anything?
Well, I'm into computer networks too, so
Oh, okay.
there's a lot there.
So what the fuck do you have to say about life?
Lots, man.
Because you're so experienced.
Yeah.
What are you experienced at? Is it life?
Well, all these things are little mirrors, but there's a special mirror.
Oh, look at you talking all that fucking hogwash, gobbledygook.
Yep. It's the one where you see yourself.
No, it's interesting.
Expression and all that. Yes, of course, creating. And the goal, like what I'm thinking, being organization, right? You express to work together. Why else are you expressing
But
anything?
yes or no? You
You
never
ex-
talk to anybody but yourself.
Why would you express? Unless you want to share and replicate. Abstract.
It's not about wanting to. It's that you can look at all stacks as like antennas that resonate into the ether.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's obviously a bad wording.
You don't want to
imply
express-
that there's a
There's
some
a
kind of
buildup.
desire.
There's a buildup of excess energy that dissipates into expression. Period. That's the layout, if you will.
Right, and this build up and exhaustion
Dissipation.
happens whether you like it or not. It just keeps coming and going like waves on the ocean. it's up to you to properly
potential-
take that energy in
The potential
and let it
builds
out.
up, and then once it's beyond capacity, it has to find a way to resonate back
Right.
out.
Like you can have tide generators.
So we're all batteries.
You can put on the tidal force generators like fans. Right.
And as soon as it like goes beyond its thing, it just has no choice. It just has to out.
Start generating energy, comes out
Out.
the wire because it's fast enough now coming in. Yep. And then it reverses on the back way, generates energy coming out.
We as stacks are no different. We accumulate information, we accumulate
Just
our energy.
doing smart things. We do a lot
and
of
then
smart
as
things.
soon as we accumulate,
Even
we
the
dissipate.
dumbest among us do very smart things all the time. That's why they're still among us. That's why we are all still among us, because we do lots of smart things.
Most of which include us not dying.
It always leads to that, right?
Well, smart is really just not dying. Or a way of not listening to somebody. Smart is a funny word, in my experience.
Should smart be linked to changing context from individual benefit to broad range benefit to group benefit, let's call it? Is that smart?
I think Sentience covers that part.
Sentience is smart then? Let's appropriate smart. Let's appropriate smart.
No, if you appropriate smart, it's just all you're going to do is appropriate the terminology to ignore people.
It's too stupid a word to work.
Smart is a word you use to ignore what's being said. So, if you call this person smart,
Was this from the past? Yeah, okay.
no, this is repetitive.
Your trauma, particularly, has been being labeled smart as a way of ignoring nuance further.
Of everything, fucking everything I ever say,
Any further nuance.
forever and ever and ever.
He is smart.
Smart is as a mechanism to not
But
listen.
doesn't that even make it more that we should even more appropriate that fucking word? I'll show you smart. I'll show you what smart actually means.
We already did. Love. What's interesting is that love, real, qualitative, encompassing love,
Which is like that step, you could say.
absolves any of those things. That's the real response.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and this is like the real responsibility is to be able to map those things of social layers. Like we need to take within ourselves mappings of the social, which doesn't happen.
This is my I'm equating all of this to my love.
Loving that beer.
Love.
Well, thankfully it's not on
That's
main
not
screen.
It's never what it's been. That's not what it's ever been for me. I know. Don't get me wrong. I'm talking like I don't know what love is, because I talking like I don't experience it. I do experience it, and this is why I know that what most people equate to love exists like this. You can drink a little bit of it. You know, it exists in some
Thing.
It exists
A thing,
in
an
some
object.
thing out there.
An object that just comes and goes, doesn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't say no because it doesn't because it's not alive.
Oh, what, drugs? Yeah.
Drugs too. Eating, same shit. Drinking, eating.
Doesn't say no.
It doesn't say no.
Well,
It is the wrong medium
that's
for
what
it.
makes it the lowest common denominator of reward, is to fall into the traps of reward. Say you start scrolling Facebook or something. It's like, that's the fastest thing that's gonna make you feel some good. You don't know why.
I karma whore the shit out of Reddit.
For a reason.
Because it's the most evident way to show myself,
to feel better,
to show myself how fucking out of touch the connection is between what is being said
and how good it feels,
and what response of the world is, and like it is just such a weird.
You're winning, Shenya.
Bah.
You're winning.
It's a
on
weird
Reddit.
train wreck.
Yep. All that matters is that you're winning. The feeling of winning.
It's... how do you call it?
It's really fucking tough, like scrolling Facebook or doom scrolling. Like, you just want that minimal validation, the feel good, minimal feel good.
I don't
and it
give
doesn't
a shit
matter
about
what.
that.
But there's drugs, there's this, is that. You find it, instead of going for what your life demands, the meta schedule, instead of holding the meta schedule in faith as your goal. Instead of that, you are going to the fastest reward possible. Admit that. Because that's what we do. And this is the main, like, we're not perfect. That's what it is, right? We can describe meta schedule as much as we fucking want. Fact is, we aren't sitting there looking at the meta schedule.
Excuse me.
Right? But yes, look at the meta schedule. Hey, what's there? Hey, a dev meeting for Portal Mountain. Sweet. Let's talk about awesome shit. And here we go. The meta schedule has led us to an awesome fucking day. Right?
Sure.
Not perfect.
There's that.
Not perfect, but guess where that came from? Right? The meta schedule is why we're here. Right? That's what I'm thinking.
Well, I mean, it's not off. Like, these meetings are a result of the meta schedule in the sense that we're perpetually driven
Driven's a fun word.
To produce more conversation out of the conversation.
Here's the thing.
That
Here's the weird thing that we should all not try to admit.
it's a conversation.
That creating Portal Mountain as a guild, as an organization, is an exercise in capitalist production. Therefore, at its heart, we have to kind of think of, like, how do we actually do things that people like, or whatever? Like, where is the trade?
Yeah.
So, like, there's a base. This causes a base to underpin any group where we're like, let's all be friends and pals and family, right? But yet there's a bubble, this capitalist bubble. This is us not fighting capitalism, right? To create that shell and be like, okay, I know it's got to be viable. In other words, we're trading. So we've got trade. Trade is the worst kind of enemy, right? But the quality of people together, when you have this self-sufficient ideal, then and all that, like, you can really work together to make good, nice community. Even a neighborhoods should be run through guild ideals. You're together. You're on the same fucking street. You should be people, brothers in arms, right? Till the end. You live in the same spot. How can you not have shared ideals?
And yet you're strangers.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's totally wrong and weird. But the guild gives a structural kind of idea of what it's like to relate on an emergent idea. Like, yes, we all own our homes. You know what? If you're foreclosed and you're gone, sorry, we can't help you. You're not part of our neighborhood anymore, right? You're gone. This kind of thing could happen in the calculation of your thinking of your mind of how to stick together as neighbors and do things on a higher level and work together. Become known for something, right? In town. Yep.
Shall we?
For sure. I see you don't want to be late.
Nope.
So with that, we will wrap up our beautiful afterthought. That's all that it was. Neat that it was live stream, so it'll be up for a while. Maybe we'll, maybe part 2, whatever. Maybe I'll just put it private. But no, I don't think so. I definitely enjoyed today. Appreciate you, buddy. And
I'm fucking passionate.
with that, we shall end.